All right, we are going to go ahead and get started for the conversation today for the student organization leadership advancement retreats, solar, which is a series of events throughout the week, aim to assist our student organization leaders in the management of their organizations to think differently about how they do things. Today's event is part of the Social Change Leadership Series, sponsored by the Attenuated Greek Council, as part of this week and part of National Hazing Prevention Week. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Dr. Nicholas Sutton, and I have the privilege of serving as the Director of the Office of Student Orientation, Leadership, and Engagement. I also was a member of a multitude of student organizations when I was an undergrad 20 plus years ago at the University of Oregon, including a member of a fraternity. So today's topic, as part of National Hazing Prevention Week, as part of SOLAR, is called Unhealthy Groups, right? Keeping our student organizations free from hazing, right? So haze-free. And so I think we're all familiar with this, with relationships. I think either we've had a relationship or we've seen a relationship. Some of us have really watched the movie You, not movie, but the TV show You, or they've watched other examples or seen other examples of relationships. And sometimes those relationships can be healthy. Maybe your mom and dad exhibit healthy relationship examples. Maybe you've seen unhealthy relationships, or what we would probably consider a little bit more toxic across the board. And the same concepts are actually applicable to student organizations. And we notice that this happens often at the beginning of school years when we're getting new members in. We notice that sometimes our student organizations move from being these positive, reaffirming organizations to something that becomes a little bit more toxic, a little bit more dangerous, and a little bit more at risk of not fulfilling the missions of your organizations. And we know that this is the case because, about 55% of all students in the United States experience some form of hazing, either in high school or in college. And so we're going to talk a little bit about it. So as student organizations and as general students, everybody should be familiar with the Texas Education Code, which dictates kind of what you could be held responsible for. It's up here on the screen, and it says, again, defines hazing as anything that's intentional, knowing, or reckless act occurring on or off campus, as it be here or elsewhere, of an educational institution by one person or acting with multiple people directed against a student that endangers the mental or physical health or safety of a student for the purpose of pledging, being initiated into, affiliated with, holding office in, or just maintaining membership in an organization. And so we're not going to cover a lot of the specifics of hazing overall, because I think we kind of have a grasp on what that is, maybe we don't. But we want to make sure that all of us understand that that you will all could potentially be held responsible as an individual, including criminal charges, financial penalties available to it. Your organization could be unrecognized by the university. Every year, I'm required to release a hazing report on instances of hazing that take place. We do receive reports of hazing here at TAMU. Some of them unsustained. Some of them without merit, some of them that require a little bit more investigation. And the hazing takes place in a multitude of different locations. So what are the three components of hazing? Hazing requires there to be improved context, right? It also requires, for the most part, humiliating, degrading, or endangering behavior. And then finally, it also basically says that whether you wanted to participate or not, whether you wanted to be struck with a paddle or not, doesn't matter. No matter what, you can be a willing participant in your own hazing. And you see that across the country. You've seen this most likely with alcohol-related deaths that take place at universities. For example, a couple of years ago at the University of Texas, there was the Texas Cowboys group. Those are the people, the student organization that is in charge of the cannon that goes off every football game after every touchdown. They're a student organization. They're a spirit group. They're like our own Maroon Mob, but for University of Texas. And they were on a retreat as an organization. They went out, they did tons of drinking, tons of making their members ingest things. And then as they were driving back, one of the new members that was trying to become a member of the Texas Cowboys was really wasted and they were sleep deprived. They got into a car accident and that student died. So then they were held responsible, the Texas Cowboy was held responsible for that accident. This happened, I believe, in 2018 or 2019, one of the two. They're just now getting access to come back to that campus as a official student organization. So they've been unrecognized for a substantial period of time. And that has required new state laws here in the state of Texas related to reporting and education, which is why we have the activities that we do throughout this week. So hazing is common though, right? Hazing, in many ways, 55%, as I said, 55% of college students are involved in, clubs, teams, sports, organization, experience form of hazing. Often hazing is only believed to occur in fraternity and sorority or athletic settings, but we know that it happens with sports, marching bands, art groups, honor societies, student governments, and really any other multicultural organization. So you see here the chart of where does it actually take place, and what type of organizations do the percentages of those that belong experience hazing. And hazing does take place here in our organizations across the board, whether it's Greek or it's on the athletic teams, or it's in club sports or an intramural team across the board. Now, we're talking here in the larger collegiate setting, not necessarily in all of our things. But we know that just by virtue of the law of percentages, we know that students are experiencing some form of something on the spectrum of hazing. And when I talk about the spectrum of hazing, again, hazing threatens the health and safety of students due to its intimidating, harassing, and often violent nature. So you can see on this slide here, we have a spectrum of hazing, because hazing isn't just the more serious stuff that we're familiar with. Hazing also could be ridicule. It could be forcing someone to wear a specific item that wasn't allowed for by their education process. It could be calling them demeaning names. It could be isolating them from other people across the board. Now, just because you are told you can't acknowledge someone during an education process or during your new member process does not mean that that is automatically considered hazing. A lot of it relies on the intent and how did it impact those individuals across the board. So we have here over on the left-hand side of the screen, we have what is known as low recognition, like a lot of people can't figure it out, which is intimidation, but it happens on a very frequent basis, right? And as you move through here, the recognition, people know when you're being forced to drink a bottle, a fifth of alcohol, or no when you've been hit with something or branded with something extremely hot. They see that happening, or sexual assault or abduction, things of that nature. They see that happening. So the visibility of it is high, but the frequency of that level of hazing that occurs is low. But it's been over 24 years where there's been at least one hazing related death in the United States at a college campus across the board, at least 24 years in a row. And so making sure that you understand that hazing, while it does occur, such as, violent forms of it, such as beating, paddling, sexual assault, and forced consumption are the most recognizable, they aren't the only form. Really, it's a lot of what happens in student organizations and others, it's humiliation or harassment, right? That's part of it. It also happens a lot of times, a lot of folks think that it happens in private spaces and it's cloaked in secrecy, but we actually know that 25% of hazing actually takes place at the school, here on campus, and in public, right? And so, and in fact, students actually talk about this with their parents, their family members, and their peers. So what I want us to really think about as student organizations is to think about the behaviors that we have inside of our organizations that create this environment to happen, right? Because if you think about it, I often think, and I've said this countless times, and specifically with sororities and fraternities, that I believe people join people, right? They join people, they don't necessarily join that organization. So if you're actually connecting with people in a healthy way, you're building deep, meaningful relationships with them, deep, meaningful, impactful friendship with them, they're more likely to join, right? You may have a similar interest in maybe chess or journalism or in an organization that does service, but you're also more likely to join people that you want and to be around, right? So student organizations, historically, not only are they there to help you build marketable skills, right? So communication, leadership, teamwork, and problem solving amongst others, they're also there to build a social environment for our college students. So in reality, they're there to help you make friends, develop a sense of belonging, and then who knows, maybe you might find a new partner from it, right? So if we think about student organizations and this kind of contract that exists between us as being kind of a social contract that we're meant to build each other up instead of tear each other down, we know that there are certain behaviors that are extremely healthy for student organizations. We're going to cover what are 10 healthy behaviors, and then we're going to look at 10 unhealthy behaviors, and then we're going to actually discuss how does that manifest itself inside of student organizations. How does it actually affect us here? And try to pinpoint what are the things that could make our organization unhealthy. Because I've seen it happen here with all of the 100+ student organizations, unhealthy behaviors. We're not talking that you're making them drink. You're going to see here that this is really applicable not only in your student organization, but all of these maybe keep in mind as well in your relationships. So we're actually taking this model of healthy relationships and building healthy relationships into student organizations. And this is a national trend because we're seeing a need to develop a sense of belonging. So the first healthy behavior we're going to look at is it comfortable? Does it go at a comfortable pace? I don't know. So does it go at a comfortable pace? They're not throwing you into the frying pan, so to speak, right? So what does this mean? It means that the relationships, the organizational relationships move at a speed that feels enjoyable and okay for each person, right? They're not saying, hey, you're coming right in to be the president of it, right? unless you're like a brand new student organization, right? Just as you would in your own dating life, you're not gonna say as soon as you meet someone, let's get there, right? You're not gonna do that, you're moving at a comfortable pace. So here are some examples of what this looks like, right? You have time to interact with getting to know members without feeling pressured to spend all of your time with them, right? You don't want to get smothered. A healthy organization does not smother its members. There's also transparency about the group expectations. What is it that you are expecting to get out of this? What am I expected to do for the organization? And then you yourself have to establish boundaries, right? Say like, I can only give this amount of time. So I think when we think about this, comfortable pace is actually one of those things that is important automatically in there. Healthy organization is also very much an honest organization, right? It's when you can be truthful and candid without fearing someone else and how they will respond, right? It's like if you think about relationships, it's like walking on eggshells, right? That would be the opposite of it, right? So we're being truthful on what is it that I'm looking for out of this, what is expected of our members. So being true to who you are, though, also, it allows for you to live your authentic selves, be your authentic selves without having to fit into this group image, right? Sometimes I've seen this at other institutions I've worked at, where only those that fit this specific image can get into the organization. They have to be a specific height, hair color, what have you, to do that. There's also an example of being honest in a healthy organization is explaining and providing the full picture of expectations for joining that organization. They don't move the goalposts, so to speak, on how you can get in. And then again, they will talk about, are we functional? How does the organization work? Up front, right? They're very open and honest about it. Another example of a healthy relationship is an organization that exhibits respect. You value one another's opinions and beliefs. You appreciate each other as individuals, right? You're not just there across the board. So it means you're respecting each other's needs, right? Like, I have a need to do this, I have a need to do that. You're respecting each other's privacy. You're not going out there and sharing each other's information. You're respecting their time. We have a limit for our student organization meetings. We're not going to go past 11. We're only going to have a 1 hour meeting. We're only going to meet every week. We're not going to meet 10 times a week, right? You're respecting each other's property, their pronouns, their identity, their lived experiences. That is an example of a healthy relationship, healthy student organization relationship, right? You're allowing people to clearly state what their boundaries are and you're respecting those. And you're saying, and you're not saying like, oh, you're letting us down because you're not showing up at this time. And there's also respect and transparency. You're expecting that transparency. The fourth is kindness, right? These are all things that we should all want to begin with if we're trying to associate with people. We want them to be kind to us. So you are caring and empathetic to one another and provide support as needed. That is healthy. That is what we as people want across the board. So an example of this is when you reach out to people and say, how's it going? How are your exams going? Right? Like, that is healthy, right? Not just focusing on the business, but focusing on the individual, right? You send thoughtful messages and you express empathy when something happens to them. The fifth one is having healthy conflict. Conflict is inevitable inside of any social organization. And if we're doing it in a healthy way, we're actually building each other up. And it means that we're open and respectfully discussing issues and confronting disagreements non-judgmentally. This is where I've noticed a lot of student organizations that have challenges across the board. When I say that they have challenges, it's they don't know how to have conflict in an open way and in a healthy way. They avoid conflict for the most part. Or two, they talk behind each other's backs. Or they take things personally when it's really business, right? So knowing how to separate that. So how do we do, here are examples. Having an open dialogue around the challenges or disagreements that face your organization, right? Like, we're down in numbers, how are we going to do this, right? How are we going to be able to achieve our mission? this time around. Or we talk through problems with the person directly versus social media or behind their back, right? I think a skill set that all of you all as students have to build across the board, I think too far away, is that we don't know how to actually manage conflict with each other, right? Because we avoid it a lot of times. And then really, I think a perfect example of a healthy organization is you work towards compromise. It's not just my way or the highway. You try to make sure that we're listening to each other. So good organizations do this, right? Strong organizations work towards compromise. A healthy organization has trust inherently built into it. And trust is when you have confidence that the group won't do anything to hurt you or ruin your reputation, right? So I can come in and know that I'm not gonna feel that someone's gonna talk shit about me, right? That's what we did sometimes. So how do we build that? What are examples of a healthy organizational trust level? Is you build it through your healthy behaviors. Do your deeds match up with your words, right? Do you build honest and authentic connections? Do you have really deep conversations, or is it superficial? Right? Do you commit to actions and perspectives that build trust, right? Like not just expecting trust to be there immediately, knowing that trust takes time to build, right? That it requires development. We can't just have it, right? We can't operate with blind faith that I can trust this person. And do we have open conversations? Another example of trust built into a healthy organization is the ability to be vulnerable, right? And expecting others being able to like respect where you're at and not expect that vulnerability in return, right? It's okay to operate on your own levels of vulnerability. Healthy student organizations have independence. The members, the unique members, have independence across the board. You have the space to be yourself outside of the organization. How many of you have jobs? On or off campus? Raise your hand. On or off campus? How many of you have jobs, right? So guess what? How many of you all have families? Everybody should be, for the most part, raising their hand, right? How many of you, I don't even know, but some of you have friends or partners, right? Outside of the organization, raise your hand, friends or partners outside the organization, right? We all have lives that exist beyond the confines of those 3 letters that may be on your chest or whatever it may be, right? Now, understanding that. So how do we exhibit healthy organizational relationships? Maintain relationships outside of the organization with our partners, our family, our friends, our coworkers, right? Mentors. We have the ability to take on activities and responsibilities outside of the group with jobs or other clubs. And if you can think about it, maybe unhealthy relationships inside of organizations would maybe be the opposite of this, right? Limits and say, you need to spend all your time with this organization. Why are you going to do this? Why are you going to do that? Very kind of controlling, right? And then we want them to thrive, so we're going to support them in their endeavors, right? That's what a successful, healthy organization does. They maintain independence. Another example, or I would say principle of a healthy organization is that they are equitable. And we're not necessarily talking about equity in that larger sense. We're talking about the relationships that exist between the members and the organization feels balanced. That everybody puts forward their best efforts, right? So equity isn't, we're not necessarily talking about the DEI space, we're talking about like, it's equal, it's equitable, everybody's putting in an equal amount or equitable amount of work, right? Right? What they have the capacity to contribute to the group's success. Examples of this would be sharing equal responsibility throughout. Now I know some of our student organizations are smaller and there's not that much that we can do related to the amount of work that needs to get done. Sometimes maybe our new member educators or our risk managers or our event planners are going to take on more workload. And I get that, that makes sense. But those folks hopefully are the ones signing up for it, right? And then those that can put forth the capacity that they have will be joining in other ways, right? They're all contributing an equitable, not equal, equitable way, right? We break down hierarchy. We're not just saying the president's in charge of everything, that we're all kind of, in some ways, working towards the same success. And then finally, we listen to the input, needs, and opinions of everybody. It's not just the president, it's not just the risk manager that gets to decide. We're all being equal in having the capacity to voice our opinions, right? So another one is when the members take responsibility. And I gotta say, as a professional, I've been working now for 18 years as a professional person. 18 years now. And I can say this is one of the hardest things that you will see take place in any organization. So we're talking not just at a higher education, we're talking business, things of that nature, right? Any type of organization, folks have a very hard time taking responsibility over their own actions, right? So owning your own actions and words, right? Because I think there's also associated, if we do that, people are gonna see me as either being weak, I'm gonna have shame associated with that. And there's a lot of research out there by Renee Brown on this concept of shame, right? Shame exists in multiple levels, but that's why one of the reasons why folks don't take responsibility for their actions. So how do we do this? We recognize the responsibility to call out bias if we see it inside our organization. But really, I think here, a perfect example of a healthy organization is you take responsibility to report the incidents and behaviors that go against your own policies, the university's policies, things of that nature, right? We hold ourselves accountable if we make a mistake. With our orientation leaders, we have this motto: if you mess up, you fess up, right? You acknowledge that you made the mistake. And so that's what this means. As well as we also make sure that we're operating with bystander intervention at the forefront of what we're doing. Meaning, if we see something, we're gonna say something, right? We're actually gonna go out there and say, this is inappropriate behavior. We're gonna try to step in and make it a more healthier environment for everybody. And then the final thing that healthy organizations do is they have fun, right? Healthy organizations have fun. It means that you enjoy spending time together and bring out the best in each other, right? Sometimes I think maybe you're thinking, my organization, we don't have that much fun sometimes, right? We don't. And I get it, sometimes it's just business, but you should be having fun because then you're not necessarily a healthy organization. So examples of this, we enjoy spending time with each other. So fun doesn't mean that we're always having like fun activities. It means that you're still enjoying spending time with them, even when you're doing the mundane. And if you think about it in a relationship standpoint, right, like you can still enjoy spending time with your boo doing dishes, right, or cooking. You know what I mean? Like it can still be fun. You're still doing the business aspect, right? You make time and space for fun group activities. It's not always the business that you're ensuring that you have fun doing things. Just sitting there watching TV may be fun for your friends and your student organization members. That's okay to do, right? Or you're going out to have dinner at Whataburger. It doesn't matter. You're having fun with each other in healthy ways, right? And if you're making sure that everybody kind of agrees and enjoys the activities, it's not doing something that's going to be it for some folks, and then it's like super fun for everybody else, right? So you notice that some of your members are like, no, I don't like that, etc. Then maybe that's not a fun activity. So these are all 10 of these are qualities of healthy group relationships, right? It's also applicable in your own life, right? So just extrapolate it to personal relationships that you have as well. Are you having fun in your personal relationship? Are you respecting your partner? Things of that nature. So that's what this all derives from, is really relationships. And now we're extrapolating it to organizations. And this has been done for the last couple of years on a nationwide level. So what are unhealthy behaviors in student organizations? So we're going to cover 10 of those. And then I promise it's not going to be all lecturing. There's some time here that I'll build in for kind of conversations. Okay, so intensity. So that's the opposite of going at a slow pace. Intensity means like you're super in, right? So it's when someone expresses extreme feelings or over the top behavior that makes you feel overwhelmed, right? It's like, I love you on the first date, right? Like that's what this is. If you think about it from that level. Trust me, this happens quite a bit. Right? This over like I want to text you all day, all night, all day, all night. Right? It's you are my sunshine. The only way I can breathe is when I'm with you, and you only know that person for a month. Right? That's not healthy, friends. So what are examples of this, right? Emphasizing uneven or extreme power dynamics to make new members feel lower, right? You gotta show me all your effort. You have to be here all the time, doing everything, right? Well, I don't have to do anything. Right? That's how that would exemplify itself. You make yourself feel elite or signify yourself as being elite, right? That's a power dynamic that exists there. Or require new members to prove themselves. Only way for you to get into this organization is if you show up to every single event. Okay, for the entire time, right? It's really that kind of constant intensity that exists nowhere else. You manipulate, right? Makes us feel a little bit kind of blue in some ways, right? You wonder what's really going on across the board. But it's someone trying to control your decisions, actions, or emotions, right? This is where we understand what gaslighting is, right? Student organizations gaslight their members a lot. Trust me, I see it all the time. And I'm sure maybe you've seen this gaslighting happen, maybe with parents or with partners. It happens, we're humans, right? We try to control your actions, your decisions, right? I can't say how many times I've heard your mom's gaslighting you a ton, right? And I think this is very true. It's like, oh, I need to go out for whatever reason, it's gonna give me whatever, right? Right, so this is how we as organizations manipulate our members, right? We force new members to participate in activities that jeopardize their well-being, right? Or we create a coercive environment where people can't say no, right? Well, you won't get in if you don't agree to this, right? It's also sending and receiving messages like, don't let us down, right? Prove yourself. It's also controlling members through alcohol, drugs, mental or physical bondage, right? Like this happens for us. I don't know why that went up there twice. That's on my end. So there's also sabotage, right? Sabotage is what happens in organizations as well. When someone purposely ruins your reputation, achievements, or success. Examples are they rape or take your possessions, right? Like, right? This happens in personal relationships too, friends, right? You've seen people when they take things and make them not as successful as keys or things of that nature. Putting someone at risk of violating laws of the code of conduct, right? So if you tell someone to sneak into a place afterwards, it's like a rite of passage. That's what this means. Creating unnecessary risks for members, right? Not allowing them to study for their exams, not allowing them to do service, putting them at risk financial, right? So, because again, I told you hazing, you could get fined and you could go to jail, right? Hazing creates unnecessary risks for your members. That is an unhealthy relationship in an organization, unhealthy behavior in a relationship in an organization. Or easiest, forcing consumption of alcohol and drugs, right? So we also know guilting takes place in our personal relationships. It also takes place in our student organizations. When someone makes you feel responsible for their actions, makes you feel like it's your job to keep them happy, right? I also hear this a lot, the guilting from your parents, in particular your moms, right? I need you to take care of the sibling for whatever reason. I'm not trying to make anyone feel a certain way, but that's what it is. It happens all the time. And the way this happens in student organizations is you make members go through challenging times or activities and feel bonded. You all have to do this together. We're gonna make you do this extreme activity, and now you're all bonded together. Or right? Shaming them for prioritizing other needs, right? Like, I gotta go to a job, I'm gonna make you feel guilty for not attending this event, right? When you have other needs that need to be met. We're sending messages that don't let the group down for yourself. Possessiveness, and this does happen with organizations, right? We become possessive over our members. We don't want you to join another thing, right? You can think about personal relationships too. When someone is jealous to a point where they try to control who you spend time with and what you do, right? They keep tabs on you. Where are you at? What you doing? Right? This is also very much aligned with your personal relationships. You limit the privacy of them, right? You gotta show us every day in your organization. Show us your text messages, right? Show us your grades, things of that nature. That does happen inside a student organization. Only allowing members to associate with certain people. That is an example, to an extent, of hazing, or unhealthy group behavior, right? Not necessarily hazing, it's unhealthy group behavior. It could lead to hazing to me. Or requiring certain attire or group symbolism to be worn at all times, right? So that's part of it. That could be unhealthy group behavior, unless it's part of the national organization's requirements, right? So there's certain things that the national organization says, like, for example, I, as a fraternity pledge, I had to wear my badge or my pin over my heart. I had to do that. That's what I had to do all day, every day. And that's all right. That's not necessarily a negative thing. If you're requiring them to carry around a brick, and then anytime the older member can come up and say, let me see your brick, you have to hide that brick inside your backpack all the time. That's what we're trying to get at. Does that make sense? It's a little bit different than requiring certain attire, group symbolism across the board. Deflecting responsibility, not owning their actions, is when they repeatedly make excuses for their unhealthy behavior. I'm sure some of you see this in your own lives as well, right? They use hierarchy, peer pressure. They use group justification for problematic and coercive behavior, or they just exhibit tokenism or symbolic efforts. Isolation also happens when they try to keep you away from your friends, your family, your coworkers, whatever it may be, by creating physical boundaries or making the group identity, right? Like, the only thing that should be important is your membership in this organization, nothing else. So talking negatively about another organization or another identity that you have, or using your personal information. Let's say you were vulnerable and you shared something, and then 6 months down the line, you're bringing it up, right? That is creating an isolating environment in your student organization, and it's not healthy. It's also not healthy in a personal relationship, right? When they do that. Belittling, that happens as well. Someone says or does something that makes you feel bad about yourself. So yelling, screaming, or cursing, calling you names, embarrassing you in public, or shaming, right? These are examples that do happen all the time. I hear it. It may be prevalent down here for people to make fun of you for your physical appearance, right? Maybe your family has done this for a while, right? That's not healthy. Letting you know that is not healthy across the board. It may be a term of endearment that they hail from that place, but actually, studies have shown in the amount of people that go down to the student counseling services that talk about this, it's very high, right? Our family members are not necessarily as supportive. They create student organizations that exhibit unhealthy behaviors and volatility. Our volatility is when someone has a strong, unpredictable reaction that makes you feel scared, right? Or confused or intimidated. These are unhealthy group behaviors, right? You abuse someone physically when they hit you, or when they yell at you, curse at you, or creating, which I think is important, unstable roller coaster-like feelings of high highs and low lows. Kind of like manic, right? High highs, low lows. in members that are already activities. Or in the final one here is betrayal. And betrayal is when someone is disloyal or acts in an intentionally dishonest way. And how does this manifest itself in organizations? They fail to seek medical attention when needed, right? So if someone got really drunk at your event, they consumed too much alcohol, and they didn't call the paramedics, right? That is betrayal, right? That is unhealthy group behavior. They extort or intimidate members, right? We're gonna, take it to the extreme, we're gonna come after your family, but there are extremes that take place in the United States, like trust me. Or they make false promises, right? So, my question is, this is more of an internal reflection. I want you to think about, I said I wasn't gonna lecture, and I did not lecture that much, I'm trying to keep us about 20 minutes of conversation here. What type of behaviors, and I don't want people to raise their hands, call your organization out, but I want you to internally reflect. What kind of behaviors are going through your own student organizations right now? Are we more healthy, or are we on the more unhealthy side of things, right? We're not necessarily looking at this through the lens of hazing. Hazing takes place in unhealthy organizations. But just because you're an unhealthy organization does not mean that you're necessarily hazing your members. Does that make sense? A healthy behavior, a healthy organization, excuse me, does not necessarily haze its members, but it could. Does that make sense? Like, it provided the opportunity, a couple of members may do these things, right? So we're just trying to maybe internally reflect. I'll give you maybe 2 minutes to reflect as we kind of come to the scenario base. And I needed water. So as we give you some time to self-reflect here, how relevant do you think this is for your organization? I'd love to hear some thoughts, like this idea of healthy behavior in an organization and then unhealthy behavior in an organization. How relevant does this seem to you all? We're trying different approaches. We're talking to build student organizations' capacities. Yeah.
I would say it's extremely relevant, especially as officers, because I know whenever you're trying to get your organization out there or you're trying to get your members engaged, it can be difficult to kind of have like a separation between yourself as an officer and who you are outside of the organization.
Great, so it's somewhat relevant both inside and outside of the organization, yeah. Tomorrow, we're gonna talk a little bit about motivating those members and how you get them to get better ideas, like get them to buy in better, right? And build sustainable organizations. That's how we're finishing off the week here. What else? Do we see this kind of maybe play out in our own organizations, or am I just like completely off base? Do we see healthy behavior take place in our organization, but maybe we kind of also see unhealthy behavior take place in our organizations, right? Like, oh, don't let us down, we need to be here for the bake sale, right? Like, skip class, it's all right. Gotta sell the for the roll days, right? Like, that's what it is, right? You gotta give up yourself up for the organization. And I don't know necessarily if it's the healthiest of things that we want in our student organizations. I sure hope, and part of this was to kind of take this concept that really has only existed in relationship space and kind of apply it to like personal dating, personal relationships. Take this now and extrapolate it to student organizations, because a lot of you spend a lot of time in these organizations. And I think this is relevant, and maybe you can even take this into this little bit of information into, like, I think next week is healthy relationship week here at 10U, so kind of move you into that conversations, right, a little bit, hopefully. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna give some scenarios. What I would like for you to do, this is group conversations, we're gonna give you some time to talk to people around you, so maybe require you to shift things around. What I want you to do is to tell me is this an example of a healthy or unhealthy relationship? And then, what are some of the behaviors present in the scenario? Okay, so I will read the scenario aloud, and then it's on the screen for those of you who don't want it to be read aloud. Amelia is a member of the basketball team and recently got a part-time job. She has been feeling overwhelmed trying to balance her new workload with team bonding time, which is, sorry, it's got cut off there, but time, which is always on Monday nights, right? Amelia talks to the team captain, Liz, about how she has been stressed out. Liz suggests that every other Monday they move the team bonding time to Tuesday. So Amelia is still able to join in. So I want you, we give you like a minute, talk it over with your friends, or maybe if that exercise doesn't work that well because we're all shy today, we'll just call on people to say, is it healthy or unhealthy relationship? Okay, or group dynamic, not relationship. So you can either gather with people around you, or I'm just gonna start randomly call on you. Yeah.
You want to see chat? I was like, I would go to yeah.
All righty, we're gonna bring it back. They got like 6 scenarios, bring it back here. Is this an example, I want you to tell me, is this an example of a healthy or unhealthy student organization?
Healthy.
Healthy, okay, great, love it, thank you for yelling it out. What are some of the behaviors that we covered that are exhibited in this? Yeah, I'll speak at one.
Respect.
Respect, that's one, absolutely. Huh? Comfortable pace, right? That's great, that could be one, yeah. Healthy conflicts. What about honesty? Right, like she's being able, Amelia is able to be honest and say like, hey, right? What about independence? Allowing people to have outside things, right? What about fun? Right? Aren't they having fun team bonding time, right? Like just random things? Great, love it. Thank you all for volunteering so far. Here goes our next scenario. I'm gonna come down here to read it because I don't want to be back up there. Okay. Cal and Sam are new to the soccer team. The team captain and other senior athletes tell them they have a tradition in which every team member drinks a disgusting mixture of condiments and liquids, while the veteran players yell at them so they can be officially part of the team. As Cal and Sam are about to drink the mixture, the captain tells them they don't have to drink it, but everyone else did when they joined the team. Cal and Sam drink it. After, the captain tells them that they still need to do a few other things before they're really official. This continues all semester with Cal and Sam doing everything they're told, and the others saying that they're still not part of the team, even though they've been playing. Talk amongst yourselves, see what you come up with. right, we're gonna come back. Is this an example of a healthy or unhealthy student organization? Hey, great job, we're doing some great things. Talk to me about the different behaviors that you see here. Manipulation, love it. Intensity, right? Huh?
Belittling.
Belittling? Okay,
Guilty.
guilty, yes, absolutely, guilty. Maybe volatility. Betrayal, right, like they're making them ingest some things that they shouldn't. All right, let's move on to the next one. Sierra is the chapter's new member educator and has just become Bianca's big sister. During the initiation process, Sierra required all the girls to do high intensity workouts 4 times a week because she says our chapter has a certain reputation on campus, and you don't want to embarrass us, do you? Because Bianca and Sierra have good relationship, Bianca texted her and expressed her discomfort around the workouts. Sierra responded by saying, I'm just looking out for you and the other girls. No one else is complaining about me helping you look good. But if you don't want to be my little, that's fine. You don't have to be. Give you a minute to figure out, is this healthy or unhealthy organization? All right, this is an example of a healthy or unhealthy organization. Fantastic, I love it, look at you all. And what are some of the behaviors that you see present here? Belittling, yes, what else? Guilty, what else? Manipulation, what else? Possessiveness, and what else? Deflecting responsibility, right? Like, that's a big one. She's like literally saying, right? Okay. Let's move on to the last one here right now that we're gonna do. Meg and Tiana are in the same sorority new member class. Tiana invites Meg to a film screening hosted by the LGBT plus resource center on campus for extra credit in class. Meg says, yeah, I'll go, but isn't it kind of weird for us to go together? Tiana asks who she thinks, or why she thinks it's weird. Meg says, people might think we're together, and laughs. Tiana looks upset and says, you didn't know I'm bisexual. You didn't have to go if it's weird for you. I can't watch it or read. Meg immediately apologizes and says she didn't know Tiana was into women too, and adds that she'll wingman for Tiana sometime. Okay, talk amongst yourselves, see if this is a healthy or unhealthy student organization. This one may be a little bit trickier for some of you. All right. So is this an example of a healthy or unhealthy organization?
Healthy.
How many of you say healthy? How many of you say unhealthy? Ooh, okay, see, that's something a little tricky. There's actually a healthy organization. What are some of the behaviors that are present here that makes it a healthier organization?
Healthy conflict.
Honesty, healthy conflict, respect, independence, and I think here, did she not? apologizes, taking responsibility, right? Taking responsibility when we're not being respectful. All right, friends, I think I had a couple more, but we're not gonna be able to do it, so, because I wanna make sure we all get food. This is a survey that in order for you to get food, which today, as part of Hispanic Heritage Month, we're celebrating Costa Rica. We have Costa Rican food, we have arroz con leche, the pan de plátano, we have milanesa, rice, and black beans. Sort of a meal that's it's a Costa Rican sodero, I think it is. That's what it's called, so they're gonna check it this way, they're also gonna sign into their student organization for solar. So I know we could check in at the beginning, this is part of the social change leadership series, again. But we wanted to make sure that we fed you a little bit today, as well as that we gave you the opportunity to get credit for solar, intending for multiple organizations. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the recording. And hopefully you found this beneficial for your organization.